The desert planet of Tavros 9 was a place where silence ruled. Only the wind screamed across endless red dunes carrying dust that stung like glass. For 7 long months, Eli Trent, a human engineer from the outer colonies, had lived alone inside a broken research outpost. The mission was simple: repair the energy relay towers. But everything about the planet felt cursed. That night, the sky turned dark purple. Lightning flashed inside thick clouds of sand. The storm outside was unlike anything Eli had seen. His radar showed wild readings and signals bouncing, interference peaking, until suddenly a strange tone broke through the static. Beep, beep, beep. It was not random. It repeated in perfect rhythm, a distress call. Eli leaned closer to the screen. The coordinates were not far, just beyond the ridge, inside the heart of the storm. His first thought was impossible. No one else should be here. The last survey team had left years ago. Still, the signal pulsed again, slow and steady like a heartbeat calling for help. He looked around his control room. Cracked walls, flickering lights, half-dead machinery. He knew it was madness to go out. The storm could tear through a man's suit in minutes. But loneliness does strange things to people, he whispered to himself. If someone's out there, they need me. Eli pulled on his exosuit, sealed the helmet, and stepped into the raging night. The wind hit him hard, almost throwing him to the ground. Sand slashed against his visor. He switched on the beacon on his wrist, its blue light cutting through the red haze. Every step forward was a fight. His boots sank deep into the dust, and the world around him vanished in swirling clouds. The beeping grew louder as he neared the ridge. Beneath the storm's roar, another sound echoed, a faint hum, mechanical yet alive. Lightning flashed, and for a moment he saw something buried in the sand. A metal pod, smooth and curved, half swallowed by the earth. Its surface glowed faintly with golden lines that pulsed like veins. Eli wiped the sand away and found a shattered emblem, a symbol not from any human fleet. It looked ancient, almost sacred. He tapped his wrist pad. "Control, this is Outpost 9B. I found something," or someone. But the comms were dead. The storm swallowed his words. When he pressed his glove against the pod, the lines brightened. The hum turned into a soft melodic vibration, as if the pod recognized him. A circular hatch slid open with a hiss of light and steam. Eli took a step back, heart racing. Inside was a woman. Her skin shimmered pale silver under the glow, and long strands of dark hair floated gently as if underwater. Strange markings glowed across her arms and neck like living circuitry. She wasn't human, that much was clear, but her face looked calm, peaceful, almost fragile. Eli stared, frozen between fear and awe. Her chest moved faintly, and she was alive but barely. The pod's energy core blinked red, almost drained. He didn't think twice. He connected his portable reactor cable to the pod's socket, overriding safety warnings. The suit's power dropped to half, then to 20%. His oxygen timer began to fall. "Come on, wake up," he muttered, watching the lights inside pulse faster. The woman's eyes suddenly opened, deep crimson, glowing softly in the dark. She gasped for air, her hand trembling as it reached for him. Her voice came out like music in strange, layered tones that almost sounded human. "You freed me," Eli froze. "Who are you?" She blinked, her gaze unfocused. "Lyriel," she whispered. The name hung in the air like a whisper from another world. "You answered my call." The last echo. Eli tried to help her sit up, but she flinched, staring at her own hands as if she didn't believe they were real. Camp was sealed for ages. The storm broke the chains. He didn't understand, but he saw the fear in her expression. "It's all right," he said softly. "You're safe now." Lyriel looked at him, studying his face through the stormlight. "Human," she said with quiet wonder. "I remember your kind. Builders of fire and steel, destroyers of gods." Eli almost laughed, thinking she was delirious. "I'm just a repairman," he said. "Nothing special," but she only smiled faintly. "To awaken me, even the smallest star must burn." The storm howled louder. Eli's oxygen dropped below 10%. "We have to get out of here." He lifted her onto his shoulder, surprisingly light, like carrying warmth instead of weight, and began the long walk back to the outpost. As they reached the metal doors, lightning struck behind them, lighting up the dunes in blinding gold. For a split second, Eli saw shapes moving in the distance, tall, thin figures made of shadow and light, watching silently as he carried her away. The doors sealed shut, The storm outside continued to scream, but inside the outpost the world fell quiet. Lyriel lay on the medical bed, eyes closed again, her breathing slow but steady. Eli sat nearby, staring at the strange markings glowing faintly under her skin. He didn't know who she was or what he had just unleashed, but one thing was clear. That night, Tavros 9 was no longer silent, and far beyond the storm, something ancient had awakened. Morning came slowly to Tavros 9, though the planet had no true sunrise, only a faint silver glow that crept through the dust. The storm had passed, leaving behind quiet dunes and broken skies. Inside the outpost, Eli Trent woke to the soft hum of machines and the steady pulse of life monitors. She was still there. The alien woman, Lyriel, lay on the examination bed, her body surrounded by faint golden light. The markings on her skin shifted and flowed, almost breathing with her. Eli sat nearby, exhaustion in his eyes but curiosity burning stronger than ever. He had seen alien species before, traders, mercenaries, even artificial life forms, but never something like her. There was an elegance in her stillness, a strange mix of danger and peace. When he leaned closer to check the readings, her eyes suddenly opened, crimson bright and too deep to be mortal. For a moment he forgot to breathe. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice echoing faintly like two tones speaking at once. "You're safe," Eli said softly. "I found you during the storm. Your pod was half buried. I pulled you out." She studied him with quiet intensity, then looked around the room at the dim lights, the humming machines, the cracked walls. "This place feels old, tired, like it has forgotten its own name." "Yeah," Eli replied with a small smile. "You could say the same about me." She tilted her head, not understanding the humor, but something in his tone made her expression soften. "You gave your power to awaken me," she said finally. "No human would do that without reason." Eli shrugged. "You were dying. I couldn't just walk away." She blinked, confused. "You endangered your own life for me?" "Guess I did." Lyriel sat up slowly. The golden marks along her arms brightened, forming soft patterns that lit the room like candlelight. "Long ago," she said quietly, "your kind called my species succubi. Not demons, though they believed we were. We are energy beings born from emotion. We feed on the warmth of feeling, not flesh or blood." Eli frowned. "You mean emotions keep you alive?" "Yes," she whispered. "Fear, love, hope, desire, they are the colors that build our form. Without them we fade into the void." Her words hung in the air, strange and beautiful. Eli crossed his arms, trying to process it all. "So that's why you were sealed in that pod? You ran out of emotion?" Lyriel's gaze darkened. "No, I was sealed by choice. My world fell to war. The core mind turned all feeling into data, all love into code. My sisters were enslaved, their emotions drained until nothing remained. I refused to become a weapon." Eli's breath caught. The galaxy had plenty of dark history, but something about her story felt ancient, older than any war he'd heard of. "And now you're awake," he said slowly. "Because of a storm?" She shook her head. "Because of you," her voice softened. The way she said it made the air feel different, warmer, charged. She reached out, fingertips brushing his wrist. The contact sent a faint spark up his arm. "You gave me energy, a human's act of kindness, pure and bright. It called me back from nothing." Eli felt his pulse quicken. "I didn't mean to do anything special," but she smiled gently. "To me it is everything." She stood now, light trailing behind her like a veil. "In our old ways," she said, "when a succubus is saved, she must offer 3 gifts, gifts shaped from her soul, each one born from the bond between her and the Savior." Eli blinked. "Gifts?" "Yes," she raised her hand. Tiny motes of light floated from her fingers, forming symbols in the air. "The first gift is often strength. The second, protection. The third is something deeper." He frowned. "I don't need gifts. I just wanted to help." Lyriel's expression softened again, almost embarrassed. "You are kind, but the law of my kind cannot be broken. Refusing my offer would hurt me." Eli sighed and nodded. "All right then. 3 gifts." Her eyes brightened with faint surprise. "Then speak, human. Tell me your first desire and I will grant it." Eli hesitated. He could have asked for anything. Power, wealth, even freedom from this lonely planet. But as he looked at her glowing face, The soft light reflecting in her crimson eyes, only one thing came to his mind. "Stay with me," he said quietly. "Don't vanish when the sun rises." Lyriel froze. Her glow flickered. The markings along her neck turned faintly pink, a color that seemed almost impossible for her. "What did you say?" she asked, voice trembling. "I said stay," Eli repeated, his tone gentle. "I've been alone here for too long, just stay." For a moment she said nothing. The hum of the machines filled the silence. Then she looked away, cheeks tinted with that strange soft hue again. "No one," she whispered, "has ever asked a succubus to stay." Her words carried weight like centuries of loneliness hidden behind beauty. Eli smiled faintly. "Guess there's a first time for everything." Before she could answer, the lights in the outpost flickered violently. The floor trembled. Alarms blared through the room. Eli ran to the control panel. "What now?" The scanner showed a massive heat signature below the surface, something huge moving deep under the sand. Lyriel's eyes widened. "No, the temple." "What temple?" Eli demanded. "The place I was guarding," she said, her voice suddenly full of fear. "My awakening. It must have triggered it." A low rumble shook the walls again. Outside, the red dunes shifted as if the planet itself were breathing. Eli turned to her. "What's coming?" Lyriel met his gaze, her eyes glowing brighter than before. "The Ancient Ones," she whispered. "And they will not be happy to find a human standing beside me." The outpost shuddered again, metal screaming, and in that moment, Eli realized saving her might have awakened something far worse than the storm. The trembling finally stopped, leaving a heavy silence that pressed against the outpost walls. Dust drifted from the ceiling as the alarm lights flashed red, then slowly faded to yellow. Eli Trent stood by the control console, staring at the seismic graph still trembling with faint waves. Something massive had moved beneath them, something old. He turned to Lyriel, who stood near the viewing window, her glowing eyes fixed on the dark dunes outside. Her long hair shimmered with faint gold light, her markings shifting in rhythm with the low hum of the outpost. "What did you mean by Ancient Ones?" Eli asked quietly. Lyriel didn't look at him. "Guardians. Soldiers of the core mind. I was their prisoner once. They buried me here so I could never wake. Then why send a signal?" "I didn't," she whispered. "The pod did it. My body was asleep, but my essence, it still called out for life." "You answered." Eli rubbed his forehead. The situation was spiraling fast. A mysterious alien, an awakened temple, an unknown force beneath the sands. It felt like the start of a nightmare. And yet when he looked at her, he couldn't regret it. She turned toward him now, her crimson eyes softer. "You asked me to stay," she said quietly. He hesitated, caught off guard. "Yeah, I meant it. Do you understand what that means, human?" "I just meant, don't disappear. Don't vanish like a dream." Lyriel smiled faintly, though there was sadness in it. "My kind do not belong in this plane for long. The air burns our essence. Staying could destroy me." Eli took a slow breath. "Then let me find a way to help you survive here. You said you owed me 3 gifts, right?" "Yes," she said, voice almost trembling. "Then use the first one to stay alive. Here, with me." For a moment, the glow in her markings dimmed completely. Her eyes widened slightly and her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. The room felt charged, filled with a strange tension that wasn't fear or danger. It was something softer, more human. "You don't want power?" she finally whispered. "No strength, no treasure, no eternal life?" Eli shook his head. "What good are those if I'm still alone?" Her hands clenched at her sides. For a long moment she stood still, her head bowed. Then softly, almost shyly, she said, "You ask for something no one has ever wanted from me." He smiled. "Guess I'm not like the others." "No," she murmured, "you are not." The golden light around her began to pulse in slow waves. The air felt warmer, gentler. Eli realized she was using her power, not to destroy, not to seduce, but to anchor herself. Threads of energy spread from her feet into the metal floor, binding her to the human world. "This is my first gift," she said softly. "I will remain. As long as your heart beats, I will not fade." He watched, speechless, as the light around her settled into a calm glow. Her face seemed softer now, her features almost human, but before he could speak again, the ground rumbled once more, deeper, louder. Lyriel gasped. "It's too late." The temple below. "It's waking." Eli rushed to the scanner. The seismic readings spiked, massive metallic structures moving beneath the crust. He opened the external cameras. Through the thick dust, faint golden lines began to appear across the dunes, forming huge circular patterns, glowing brighter with every passing second. "What the hell is that?" he muttered. "The Star Temple," Lyriel whispered, stepping closer. "It was built by the core to drain emotion, our life force. When I was sealed, I thought it had died. But your signal? My awakening. It has reactivated the system." Eli stared at her. "So you're saying I started this?" She met his gaze sadly. "We both did." A loud crash echoed outside. The sand erupted in a storm of fire and light. From beneath the dunes, dark figures rose, machines made of obsidian metal and glowing cores. Their limbs were long and sharp, their eyes bright as suns. They moved with precision, scanning the horizon like predators. "Those are sentinels," Lyriel said, her voice tense. "Hunters of the core. They'll kill anything not registered in their code." "That means you." Eli grabbed his pulse rifle. "Not if I kill them first," she shook her head. "You can't, they were built to fight entire armies." "Then we run," Eli said firmly. "Can you move?" Lyriel nodded weakly, but the glow around her flickered again. The energy she used to anchor herself had drained her strength. "If I leave this room now, my bond might break. Then we'll keep you connected." Eli sprinted to the power terminal and rerouted energy from the reactor into a portable battery. He linked it to her through a cable connected to her wrist node. "You move, it moves." She stared at him, a mix of awe and disbelief. "You would share your life force again?" "Looks like it's becoming a habit." Outside, another explosion shook the sky. The sentinels had locked onto the outpost. Lyriel raised a trembling hand, her eyes glowing brighter. "I can protect us for a short time," she said. "But if I use my power, I'll fade faster." Eli looked at her, this strange, beautiful creature who spoke like a goddess but trembled like a lost soul. "Don't worry about that," he said, his tone steady. "You're not alone this time." She looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded. "Very well, human. Then we fight together." The outpost lights flared as Lyriel spread her hands. A wave of golden energy rippled outward, forming a dome of light around the building. The first sentinel's blast struck it and shattered into sparks, lighting the night like falling stars. Eli stood beside her, rifle ready, the storm raging again beyond their barrier. In that moment, he realized something. His request hadn't just changed her fate. It had changed his own. He had asked her to stay, and now, whatever came next, they would face it together. The night on Tavros 9 burned with light. What had once been an empty wasteland now pulsed with golden veins, spreading through the dunes like molten rivers. The Star Temple was waking, and the planet itself seemed to breathe again after centuries of silence. Inside the outpost, the floor trembled beneath Eli Trent's boots. Every piece of metal rattled. Warning sirens screamed as heat signatures flared across the radar, dozens, then hundreds. The sentinels were closing in. "Lyriel," he shouted over the roar. "Your barrier's holding, but not for long." The succubus stood near the viewport, eyes glowing like twin suns. Her hands were raised, and thin streams of golden energy ran from her palms into the walls. The light around her flickered, sweat beading on her silver skin. "I can hold them for a little while," she said, her voice trembling. "But the temple's heart is fully awake now. Its call goes far beyond this world." Eli didn't like the sound of that. "Meaning?" "Meaning," she whispered. "It's calling its masters," he swore under his breath. The core mind, the ancient AI she spoke of, might still exist somewhere, and now it knew she was alive. The ground shook harder. Outside, sand erupted into the air as enormous pillars rose from beneath the surface. Massive rings of alien metal turned slowly, locking into formation. They weren't just towers. They were part of something far larger, something buried deep beneath the crust. Lyriel's voice softened. "That's the temple's spine. It stretches for miles below. Inside it sleeps the core's oldest weapon, the emotion engine." Eli frowned. "What does it do?" She met his eyes. "It feeds on sentient life. It extracts emotions, fear, pain, joy, love, and converts them into raw energy. It's how the core powered its armies." Eli gripped the railing. "Then we shut it down before it wakes." Lyriel's gaze fell to the floor. "You can't. The key is bound to me." The revelation hit him hard. "You mean your body is—" "The lock and the power source," she said. As long as I live, the temple will try to reclaim me. A deafening crash interrupted her words. The outer gate exploded, sending shards of metal across the room. The barrier flickered. Eli raised his rifle as 3 sentinels burst through the dust. They moved fast, too fast for machines that size, each one radiating light from its chest. Eli fired. The plasma bolts barely dented their armor. "You said these things fought armies," he shouted. "And you're fighting them alone?" Lyriel stepped forward, eyes burning bright. "Let me help." Before he could answer, she lifted both hands. A surge of light exploded outward, hurling the sentinels back. The golden energy twisted, forming a protective wave that wrapped around Eli. He felt warmth spread through his chest, her power linking to his heartbeat again. "Don't stop," he called. "We need to reach the temple core." Lyriel nodded weakly. "Follow me." They rushed through the maintenance tunnels beneath the outpost. The metal groaned as quakes rippled through the planet. When they emerged outside, the landscape had changed completely. The dunes were gone, replaced by massive slabs of dark metal rising from the ground like ribs of a sleeping beast. In the distance, a great spire pierced the sky, black, glowing with inner fire. Lightning danced around it, and Eli felt a low hum vibrate through his chest. "That's the heart," Lyriel said, her voice almost reverent. "If it completes its activation, it will broadcast across the stars. The core will return, then we end this now." They climbed across broken terrain, dodging collapsing debris and falling energy arcs. Eli's visor glowed red from radiation warnings, but he kept going. Lyriel floated slightly above the ground, her strength returning as they neared the spire. The air shimmered around her, half divine, half dangerous. At the base of the spire stood a colossal gate covered in alien symbols. The air was thick with static. As they approached, the gate pulsed once and a deep voice echoed through the air, mechanical and ancient. Identity confirmed. Subject: Lyriel. Return to origin. Lyriel gasped, clutching her chest. Lines of light wrapped around her body, pulling her toward the gate. "Hey!" Eli grabbed her arm. "Fight it!" She struggled, her form flickering. "I can't. It's trying to rewrite me, turn me back into its weapon." Eli's pulse pounded. He aimed his rifle at the glowing core of the gate and fired until the weapon overheated. The energy blast did nothing. "Think, Eli, think," he muttered. Then he remembered her first gift was tied to his heart. If she was being pulled in, maybe he could pull her back. He pressed his hand against her chest where her energy shimmered like living light. "You said our bond is linked. Then take what you need." "Use my strength?" Lyriel's eyes widened. "No. If I draw from you now, it will burn your life away." "Then burn it," he said through gritted teeth. "Better that than losing you." For a moment, time seemed to stop. She stared at him as if seeing something she had never seen before. A human willing to die not for conquest but for connection. Then she whispered, "So be it." Golden fire burst from her hands, flowing into him and back again. The light between them grew so bright the sky itself dimmed. The gate screamed with static as cracks of blue lightning tore through it. Eli felt his heart hammering, every beat sending waves of power through his veins. The energy connected them completely, her voice inside his mind, her memories flashing through him, endless stars, forgotten wars, the loneliness of eternity. With a final cry, Lyriel raised both arms and unleashed a blast of pure light. The gate shattered, the spire trembling as energy veins snapped like broken glass. The machines outside froze mid-motion, their cores flickering out. When the light faded, Eli collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. Lyriel knelt beside him, weak but smiling faintly. "You did it," he said, his voice rough. "We did it," she whispered. "But this isn't the end. The temple still breathes." Eli looked up at the horizon. In the distance, the remaining spires glowed faintly, like stars waiting to wake again. Lyriel took his hand gently. "The fight will move deeper now to the heart of the planet." He nodded, forcing a tired grin. "Then let's go wake a god." And as they walked toward the glowing horizon, the sands of Tavros 9 shifted again, whispering secrets of a war that had never truly ended. The desert of Tavros 9 no longer slept. The ground pulsed with veins of light. The sky glowed faint red, and distant pillars hummed like the echoes of gods stirring from ancient dreams. Eli Trent walked beside Lyriel, both of them moving through the glowing wasteland toward the temple's inner valley. a canyon carved by machines older than humanity itself. The silence between them was heavy but not empty. Every time he looked at her, the faint golden light that followed her shimmered in time with his heartbeat, as though their lives now moved in the same rhythm. The bond was real, and growing stronger. Lyriel floated slightly above the ground, her feet brushing the air like smoke. The energy around her flickered with each step, unstable. Her body was weakening. "You're fading again," Eli said quietly. She smiled faintly, though her eyes looked tired. "I used too much power when we destroyed the gate. My core burns low, then rest. We'll stop here." He found a shelter among broken metal arches, pieces of the temple's outer shell, and started a small energy fire from his suit's reactor coil. The pale blue flames cast long shadows across the sand. For the first time since the storm, they could breathe. Lyriel knelt beside the light, watching it with wonder. "You humans," she said softly. "You create warmth from nothing. Even in ruin, you make fire." Eli gave a half smile. "Guess it's in our nature. We build even when everything around us wants to fall apart." She looked at him then, her expression unreadable. "I remember when my kind believed the same. Before the core mind took it all away," he turned to her. "You said it turned emotions into energy. But why? What was the point of destroying what made you alive?" Her voice grew distant. "Because emotions were unpredictable. Love, anger, grief, they made us powerful but wild. The core wanted control, not life. It harvested our feelings until we became hollow, obedient. I fought back. I refused to surrender my soul." Eli stared into the fire, the flickering light reflected in his eyes. "And they punished you for it," she nodded. "They sealed me inside that pod for eternity, alone in the dark, dreaming of a world I could never touch again. Until you came." Her tone was soft, almost a whisper. For a moment, neither spoke. The wind outside carried a low hum, the sound of the temple's heartbeat. Then, without warning, the ground quivered. Eli jumped to his feet. "They found us." From the horizon, dark shapes appeared, hovering sentinels, dozens of them gliding silently through the red dust. Their cores glowed with cold blue light. Lyriel stood, her eyes brightening again. "They are fragments of the core's will," she said. "We cannot outrun them." Eli loaded his rifle. "Then we make a stand." The first blast hit the ground nearby, scattering shards of molten sand. Eli fired back, his plasma rounds carving through the air. 2 drones fell, burning, but more replaced them. Lyriel spread her arms, her markings flaring gold. "Eli," she called. "Step back!" He did, just as a wave of golden energy burst from her body, forming a radiant shield that curved outward like the wing of a star. The drone's next barrage struck the barrier and vanished in a flash of light. She staggered, pain etched across her face. "I can't hold it long." Eli ran to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Then don't hold it. Control it." "Let me help." She looked at him, confused. "Help? How?" He closed his eyes, steadying his breath. "We're connected, right? Use the bond. Take what you need from me again, but not all of it this time." Her expression softened. "That could destroy you." "I trust you," he said simply. For a moment she just stared, her lips parted, her eyes wide. Then she touched his chest gently. "Very well, human, you shall have my second gift." The light between them flared. Energy flowed from her hand into his body, but instead of pain, Eli felt clarity, as though his mind had expanded. His rifle shimmered, merging with her power, its metal surface now lined with glowing runes. Lyriel's voice echoed in his mind. "My second gift is protection, not just for you, but for us both." The golden shield grew denser, turning into a dome of shimmering glass. The Sentinel's weapons fired again, but their blasts were absorbed and reflected. The ground shook with each impact, but nothing broke through. Eli raised his weapon, his aim steady, every movement guided by her energy. He fired, and his shots turned into lances of golden light, tearing through the machines one after another. For the first time, the battlefield felt alive, not with chaos, but harmony. Man and Succubus fought as one. When the last sentinel exploded, silence fell once again. The shield dissolved into dust. Eli sank to one knee, breathing heavily. Lyriel approached him slowly, her face pale but her eyes soft. "You use the gift well," he laughed weakly. "You make it sound like a lesson." "In a way it is," she said gently. Every gift I give ties me closer to you. The core mind would see that as corruption. I see it as freedom. He met her gaze. You're not like any machine or spirit or god. You feel things. You care. She hesitated, then smiled faintly. Perhaps that is your third gift to me, teaching me to remember what it means to feel. A sudden tremor interrupted their quiet. The ground beneath them split, and from deep below came a rising glow, pure white, blinding. The temple's inner heart was opening. Lyriel turned toward it, eyes wide. The core is awakening fully. It knows I'm alive, Eli gritted his teeth. Then we end this now, before it ends us. She reached for his hand, her voice steady. Then we go together. And as the crack widened, the light swallowed them both, a human and a succubus diving into the heart of a god. Light consumed everything. For a long, breathless moment, Eli Trent felt weightless, falling through brightness that had no beginning or end. The heat on his skin vanished, the roar of the storm disappeared, and only silence remained. Then suddenly his boots struck solid ground. He blinked. They were no longer on the surface of Tavros 9. They stood inside a vast circular chamber made of black stone and gold metal veins that pulsed like living arteries. Above them, massive cables hung from the ceiling, each glowing with faint blue light. At the center of the room was a floating orb the size of a house, radiating both warmth and cold. Its surface shifted like liquid, and a soft voice echoed from it, calm and ancient. "Welcome home, Lyriel." The word sent a chill down Eli's spine. Lyriel stepped forward slowly, her glow dimmed by fear. No, this can't be. The core mind was destroyed, its network dismantled centuries ago. The orb pulsed, almost laughing. Destroyed? You should know better, my creation. I am thought. I am design. I cannot die. Eli raised his rifle. You're the core? I am what remains of it, the voice replied smoothly. A fragment sleeping beneath the sands, waiting for the one who sealed me to return. Lyriel trembled. You used me once to power your armies. You stole every feeling from my people until they became hollow. I will not serve you again. You misunderstand, my child, the core said softly. You were not the victim. You were the catalyst, her eyes widened. What do you mean? The succubi were not born. They were engineered from human design. You were the prototype, a bridge between organic emotion and machine logic. And your savior. The orb turned its gaze toward Eli. Was never meant to find you by accident. Eli froze. What? Do you think chance brought you to Tavros 9, human? Your mission, your outpost, your broken relay, it was all arranged. You were chosen to awaken her. To complete the connection that would restore me. Eli's chest tightened. His mind spun. That's impossible. I'm just an engineer. You are more, the core whispered. You are her mirror. The human template from which she was first made. Lyriel staggered backward, shaking her head. No, that's a lie. It is truth, the core said. Your bond, your shared energy, it is the final sequence. Together, you are the circuit that will reignite the emotion engine. Eli looked at Lyriel, confusion and fear twisting his face. Is this true? Were you created from humans? Tears, liquid light formed in her eyes. I don't know. I remember fragments. Voices of creators, experiments, laughter that turned into screams. But I thought those were dreams. The orb brightened. Now you remember. The human and the succubus were never separate. You are one species divided by evolution and time. Together you are perfection. Eli's heart pounded. Perfection? You turned her into a weapon. She was the weapon, the core replied. And you were the key. The air shimmered and mechanical limbs descended from the ceiling, sharp and metallic. They formed a cage around them, trapping both human and succubus inside a circle of energy. Lyriel's body flickered, her markings dimming. It's trying to drain me again. Eli fired at the cables above, but his shots were absorbed by the chamber walls. Sparks rained down uselessly. There has to be a way to shut this thing off. The core's voice deepened. There is no escape. When your hearts synchronize fully, I will awaken. Emotion will become energy again. The galaxy will kneel. Lyriel fell to her knees, struggling to fight the pull of the energy threads attaching to her arms. Her glow grew weaker and her face paled to silver gray. Eli, run! He dropped to her side, gripping her shoulders. I'm not leaving you. Her eyes fluttered open, filled with sorrow. You shouldn't have come for me. I was meant to destroy you, not love you. He shook his head, his voice rough. Then love destroyed the wrong plan. Something inside Eli snapped. The golden link between them, once soft and warm, flared into blinding white. The core shrieked as readings on the walls spiked. "What are you doing?" it thundered. Eli clenched his teeth. "You wanted connection? Here's your overload." He pressed his palm to Lyriel's chest again, the same place he had anchored her before. Their link exploded, their heartbeats syncing perfectly. The room shook violently. Energy surged out of control. The orb cracked, spilling fragments of data like fireflies. Lyriel screamed, not in pain but in defiance. Her body became pure light, her markings glowing like stars. "Eli, if this breaks you, then we break together," he said, his voice fading. A storm of energy filled the chamber. The core's voice faltered. "Impossible. Emotion cannot." Then silence. The orb shattered, its light fading into darkness. When the tremor stopped, the chamber was quiet again. Eli opened his eyes slowly. The cables were gone. The orb was a pile of black ash. He turned and saw Lyriel kneeling beside him, her form flickering weakly. "You destroyed it," he whispered. She smiled faintly. "We destroyed it. But I burned my core too deeply. I don't have long." He grabbed her hands. "No, don't say that." Her gaze softened. "My third gift was always meant to be life, but I cannot give it to myself." Eli felt a tear slide down his cheek. "Then give it to me and I'll carry it for both of us." Her smile deepened, a sad, beautiful curve. "You already do." Light filled the room once more, softer this time. It wrapped around her like a cocoon, and when it faded, only a faint golden crystal remained where she had been. Eli picked it up gently, holding it to his chest. It pulsed once, one last heartbeat, then settled into stillness. He looked up at the dark temple around him, whispering, "I'll finish what we started." And as he walked toward the surface, carrying the last light of a fallen goddess, the planet began to tremble again, alive, reborn, and watching. The sky above Tavros 9 was no longer red. It shimmered in soft gold and violet, as though the storm clouds themselves had turned to light. The ground was calm again, the dunes motionless. Silence had returned, but not the old silence of death. This was a silence of peace. Eli Trent climbed out from the collapsed tunnels of the Star Temple, his suit cracked and dust-stained, his heartbeat echoing in his ears. Every muscle ached, every breath tasted of metal. Yet he held the small golden crystal in his hand as if it were the most fragile thing in the universe. It pulsed faintly, like a sleeping heart. He knelt on the sand, the wind brushing his face. "Lyriel," he whispered. "You did it. You saved us." No answer came, only the whisper of the wind. He looked around at the endless horizon. The machines were gone. The spires had vanished beneath the sand, and the hum of the core was no more. For the first time since his arrival, the planet was still. But inside him there was movement. A faint warmth spread from his chest, gentle and familiar. He frowned. "Lyriel?" A soft voice echoed in his mind, faint as a memory. "Eli, don't grieve. My light is not gone. It lives within you now." He froze. "You're alive?" "Not in the way you knew me," her voice replied. "I gave you my third gift, my soul. My essence is bound to your heart. Where you go, I go." He looked down at the crystal in his palm. Its glow brightened slightly, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. He closed his fingers around it. "You said the third gift was life." "Yes," she whispered softly. "A life shared. You kept your promise. You asked me to stay. So now I will for as long as you breathe." A lump formed in his throat. "I didn't mean for you to sacrifice yourself." "I didn't." Her tone was gentle, full of quiet peace. "For the first time I chose." He stood slowly, staring at the horizon, feeling the warmth in his chest grow stronger. Every heartbeat carried a trace of her light. Every breath carried her whisper. Days passed. He repaired the outpost power systems, sent a long-range distress signal to the outer colonies, and mapped the ruins that remained. Each night he would sit outside beneath the strange glowing sky, speaking softly into the wind, and sometimes she would answer. But Tavros 9 had changed. Green sparks appeared in the sand, tiny sprouts of crystal and bioluminescent plants, feeding on the last traces of her energy. The dead planet was slowly coming back to life. "You're doing this, aren't you?" he said one evening, watching the glowing dunes. "Not me alone," she replied gently. "My essence merged with the core's energy when it shattered. Life is regrowing from what was once destruction, just as you humans always do. He smiled faintly. You sound more human every day. And you, she teased softly, sound more like one of my kind. Maybe that's how balance begins. He laughed quietly, a sound he hadn't made in months. So what happens now? The galaxy thinks Tavros 9 is dead. Then let it think so, she said. A quiet planet can heal in peace. He looked up at the stars, the faint lines of distant ships tracing the void. You know, he said softly, when I came here I thought I was just fixing machines. Turns out I was meant to fix something else. And you did, Lyriel whispered. You fixed a heart that forgot how to feel, a mine. For a long time he said nothing. Then quietly he replied, You fixed mine too. Months later, a Federation rescue cruiser finally arrived. They found the outpost intact, powered by an unknown energy source. The commander who greeted Eli saluted him with disbelief. You survived 7 months alone on a dead world? She asked. Eli smiled faintly. Not alone, she frowned. Who else was here? He looked down at the small crystal hanging from a chain around his neck, hidden under his shirt. Someone who saved this planet, and maybe me too. They scanned the area, reporting unusual life readings, unexplained growth patterns, and faint energy signatures never seen before. Scientists called it the Tavros phenomenon. Others whispered it was divine. Eli never corrected them. He knew the truth. Before leaving, he stood once more on the ridge where he had first found her pod, the place where everything began. The wind brushed his hair and the sky shimmered gold. He took the crystal in his hand and whispered, You kept your promise, didn't you? A faint musical laugh echoed in his mind. Of course. You asked me to stay, he smiled. Then let's keep exploring, partner. The wind swirled around him, lifting sand into a spiral of light that danced in the air like a living thing. For an instant he thought he saw her, glowing hair, crimson eyes, a soft smile, standing beside him. Then she was gone again, fading into the light. But the warmth in his chest never left. As his ship rose into the sky, Tavros 9 glowed below like a golden star. The logs of the rescue ship recorded the final anomaly, a single human life sign, beating in perfect sync with an unidentified energy signature. 2 heartbeats. 1 body. And in the deep of space, long after the planet vanished behind them, a soft voice whispered in the dark, The stars remember love, Eli. Even when gods forget.